Hey there, long time no see, back with another garden update. This will be a quick one. Alright, so hopefully I picked a good time of day to show you guys all of this. First off, this is a wood pile that was dropped off for me, and I'm going to show you guys the walkways. I already mulched up the walkways in the garden with this, but the local arborists agreed to drop this off. They were cutting the trees in my backyard, and it actually opened up a lot of light in the garden, so I was happy about that. But then I also asked them if they wouldn't mind dropping some wood chips off, and they were happy to. So they dropped off a huge pile in the front yard. I had to move it back here, but there's the pile. I'm going to use the rest here to put in that thing to make compost. And actually this pile sitting here just by itself, there's a lot of dead leaves and pine needles and such in there. The pile itself is actually cooking pretty hot right now, so I'm just going to pick a little bit from the outsides to put in the composter for brown material. Continue using the food scraps that I've got in my 5-gallon buckets there, and keep making compost. So that was a free resource, and if you guys have an opportunity to do so, just call the arborist, or if they're in your neighborhood, just ask them, hey, would you mind dropping them off when you guys are done? They're usually more than happy to do so. That way they don't have to take care of it. So as I mentioned before, I did my walkways. I mulched the walkways. I'm just going to kind of walk around the garden and kind of show you guys kind of what it looks like in here now. Keeps the soil a lot cooler underneath, so there's less evaporation, which means I don't have to water as much, and then it suppresses the weeds a whole lot better. So this is going to work out really well for me. Okay, let's go ahead and go bed by bed like I typically do with these garden updates, and I'll go real quick. I just got done doing a lot of weeding. I've plucked a few carrots out of this patch, so it's a little thinner than it was before, but that's all going well. The garlic, I've been able to harvest scapes on them, and when I get to the next bed I'll actually show you what those scapes look like. But garlic scapes are tasting awfully delicious. There's a patch of scallions there. What else is in this bed? Oh, the tomatoes that I actually planted are coming through. As I'm thinning things out and getting more light in this bed, the tomato plants in this bed are starting to do okay, and I'm going to show you another spot where I've actually planted some tomatoes, which is pretty cool. Peas are still doing okay. I actually got one that's just got done flowering. They'll probably be done here pretty soon because it's getting too hot for those. Next bed. Okay, it's bed number 2. This is the one I had all those salad greens in, and I just got done ripping the crap out of this. It was covered with weeds. A lot of the greens were going to bolt. There's only a few left, as you can see, so this bed's pretty bare. Once I'm done ripping the rest of it up, I'm going to put some radishes and some carrots in here. Actually, scratch that. I'm only going to put carrots in here. It's too hot outside for radishes, so I'm only going to put carrots in this bed down the middle. The garlic, same idea on the outside, is doing well. Let me see if I can find one of those garlic scapes I was talking about, and I just did. So this part here coming out of the garlic is what they call the garlic scape. I guess it produces a flower here to before it goes to seed, and to get a bigger bulb it is suggested to snip these off as soon as possible. I had so many of them in the garden that I actually just missed a few. So there's one. Let me see if I can find one more to show you. Yep, here's one. There's another one. So garlic scapes are perfectly edible, and you should definitely cut them off if you're growing garlic, because it'll make the bulb production a little bit more prolific. Alright, moving on to the next bed. Squashes. I didn't get a single daggone sunflower to make it out of this bed. There was one here, but it like died, so I just put it out of its misery and pulled it out the ground. These are all flowering nicely, and then this one here, you can see there's a fruit down there starting, and there's another one right there. You can see that one right there in the center. So this particular plant is fruiting. The rest of them, they've got those flowers. They look awfully beautiful when they're opened up in the morning. The bees are over here trying to get into them. The only other thing that's growing in this bed, I have a volunteer tomato plant. It's flowering, so that means I'll be getting fruits from that pretty soon. I've got another one that actually produced outside of the bed, but I'm keeping it. And what I think I'm going to end up doing to help support them is put these like metal poles, just the poles that I use for these trellises, and stick them right next to them and keep tying them up to the poles. They won't have a whole lot of weight to them, so I think that'll be more than enough to support just like a single vine for each of those tomato plants. So that's that. Let's move on to the next bed. Try and keep this as quick as possible, guys. This is the bed I have all my beets in, and the beets aren't super quickly. I'm gonna get as close as I can here so you guys can see how big that root is. Not very big, but the greens look amazing and they taste fantastic. So that was the goal, was to actually have a bunch of beet greens, kind of like Swiss chard. They taste a lot like Swiss chard because they're from the same family. And so I've got a lot of that in patches. I'm going to fill in the rest of this bed with a little bit more beets. I still have more volunteer tomato. How I got this to be a weedy situation here, I guess it's a good problem to have. I got too many tomato plants. Let's move on to the next crop in this bed. There's garlic in here, just like in all the other beds, except for the squash bed. Malabar spinach is doing well. I don't think I've been able to show you guys that yet. So there's the Malabar spinach. It's doing okay. It's getting a start. As the summer heat hits these things, they'll start to get bigger. As you can see, some of them are getting eaten up a little bit from the flies. They are attracted to, I'm going to show you guys, my mulberry tree. All the berries fall off of this thing, and the birds and flies and even groundhogs are over here eating out the yard and such. But they don't mess with the garden too much. Like a lot of those, like that one right there, is doing just fine. So a lot of my plants are doing okay. And the only other one that's in this bed I haven't talked to you about is my cucumbers. There's the cucumbers. See a row of them. And again, it's early summer, so they are right where they need to be at for now. Okay, some people might actually be a little bit further ahead. But the first germination of these was very unsuccessful. I didn't get a single one of them to pop up. The second time I planted them, they all went up. So it's been just the time that I planted them. There's a volunteer dill. I didn't talk about that, but it's here. Alright, last bed. And this is the bed where I put all my new trellises in. You can see there's the Alibaba watermelon. I just put a tomato plant there, so it's a little wilty, but I bet you that'll bounce back, no issues. There's another volunteer tomato. There's a very young, that plant right there in the center, it's a very young type, what type melon is it? Honeydew type melon. Sorry, the words leaving my mouth, leaving my brain here. So that's a honeydew type melon there. And then these, which are doing really well, are the Ohio heirloom cantaloupe style melons. And I'm really looking forward to the production on those, since those are from the home state, so to speak. So that'll be great. And this pumpkin, this Winterlux pumpkin seems to be doing awfully well as it hit the trellis. It was moving awfully slow, and then as soon as it hit the trellis, it was like fast forward. It's like just boom, 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 started kind of really vining through here, so that's exciting. And I've already seen some flowers. There's one of them right there on this, just like on the other, just like on the squashes. So that's pretty much it for the garden update. I almost forgot to show you guys this. I told you I had a bad problem with tomatoes, so I made the best out of a bad situation and planted a whole wall of tomatoes. They are way too densely planted, but we'll just see what happens. I'm sure I'll get a few tomatoes out of this. So, there's that. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.